There have been polls conducted, Gallup polls, one poll called the Roper poll. The results were extrapolated and sent to over 150,000 American GPs, medical practitioners, that basically said it's almost at epidemic proportions. They estimate that up to 4 million Americans may have had an alien abduction experience, as they believe. And then you've really got to wonder, why is the nature of it so deceptive? You know, if they're really here to help us, as some of these contacts claim, you know, why do they go around acting deceptively? Why do they stealthily abduct people in the middle of the night? And, you know, when I say it was confronting, there was some subject matter that was particularly disturbing. You know, people claim they've been taken onto a spaceship and probed in all parts of their bodies. There are sexual encounters. There seems to be some sort of almost ritual abuse that's going on. So you've got to ask, why would advanced, you know, evolved creatures, you know, kidnap people in the middle of the night and do these horrible things to them, and yet say, you know, we're here to help you evolve? And it's interesting that, you know, we'd like to apply, if you like, a scientific tag to it. But quite simply, it seems that these creatures claim that they fly millions of light years across the universe to basically deny the Bible, Christianity, and teach us almost New Age beliefs. Why would advanced extraterrestrials come just to teach us religious messages? And it seems to me, and again the researchers will show you, that the messages being received are deceptive in nature. They will tell you things like, well, you know, we've come from Venus or Mars. In the 60s, that was the messages. Well, we now know that's impossible. Now they say they come from Sirius or Orion or Zeta Reticuli or somewhere far off, where we can't test those claims. And that's the problem. And some of the stories they've told us, like that, we know to be demonstrably not true. And if someone comes to you, Chris, and tells you a story and does all these things and says, I'm here to help you, but then does brutal things to you and then lies to you, then I don't think trust is a good place to start. Let me just talk about abductions, because as I said, that's where I think we can unpick it. People that claim these abduction experiences say that little grey entities enter their room in the middle of the night and they see them pass through the walls, or they see them enter through the ceiling. And then these people who believe that they've had some real physical experience claim they're taken through the walls. Now you and I know that can't be happening, but these people are having a real experience. But the question is it really aliens? And my conclusion there is I don't believe it is.
and he was just, anyway, it was digital looking, but he turned reptilian, just like the ones that you see in V. And his clothes dissipated. They didn't tear up like in Hulk. He didn't take them off. They just dissipated and blended in. And he looked like something on V, that movie V. And I remember trying to look at his feet because the glass was at a certain angle. The glare was so bad I couldn't see under it. And I was going like this, and so he went like this. He knew what I was trying to do, and so he went like this. And he had claws on his feet and clawed hands. And he says, I could be anything I want to be. I said, you mean anything living? He goes, no. I could be a tree, a door, I could do anything.
The UFO.
Oh my god, is that UFO stuff? Wait.
Weird.
I can't even get it on my fucking camera. Is
That's
that
tuna.
UFO stuff? Oh my god, I can see a little bit. Oh my god, what the hell is that? Oh my god. Oh my god. I don't want to get that close.
3.
Oh shit. You think that's...
I'm corny.
Oh my god. What's that, Chinese lantern? Oh my god, that's scary. Oh my god, I'm gonna move back. I'm gonna get behind you guys. Hold on, I can't really...
See it?
Is that it? Wait, hold on.
Oh, there's lots. Some of them are in the corner.
Oh my god, okay, I see something, some little dog. Oh my god, I never seen something like that before.
You see the spaceship on the side.
Oh my god, look at that shit on camera. Oh, you're bad. You're so bad. Oh,
So, what's the name?
oh my god,
What's
was that
again?
UFO? You think that's UFO? Oh my god, that's sick.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I want to get close. Right there. Oh shit, let me get right here. Oh my, I don't know.
What was this
Let me
big?
see. Oh my god, look at that.
Oh, look at them there.
Oh my god. Oh my god, that's crazy. I can't, oh my god, my camera's not really that good. It's orange. Oh my god.
I was just closing the store. I managed the store here, and I was just closing for the evening, and I let my last customers out for the evening. They came running back into the store, and they were yelling, "Something's above your work, something's above your work." And I thought, well, maybe somebody climbed down the roof and was messing around on the roof. And when I came outside, they were pointing above, my work, and there was a UFO must have been about 40 foot in diameter, big red blinking object just right above the building. And we watched it for a good, I'd say 5-10 minutes before it just kind of suddenly went east and disappeared. And I quickly got in my van, I got in my car, I locked up the store, I got in my car and drove home. And as I was driving home, I see this blinking object coming back toward me, and I got scared, so I hit the gas and I was speeding home.
I think one of the most scariest things was when the UFO followed him from work, and he noticed it going above his car.
And I saw this object hovering above where my apartment complex was, and it was, plain as day. Ran upstairs, got my friend and my sister. We came back out and got my video camera and took a little bit of video of it. And then that night, I was abducted.
En las diferentes ocasiones que Stan identifica haber sido secuestrado por seres de otros mundos, a veces aparece sin ropa, a veces con ropa de otras personas, a veces aparece con marcas en su cuerpo. Es verdaderamente un enigma, incluso para el mismo Romanek.
He had a fractured rib that we couldn't understand what happened to him. He learned later what happened. He was urinating blood, had a bloody nose. So, it was obvious something had happened. And he had a lump in his hip, which we hadn't noticed before that. So we took pictures of all those things. The lump in the hip ended up being an implant that was, taken out, a year and a half later. It had surfaced and was removed. The fractured rib happened while, during the abduction. They didn't mean to hurt him, obviously, but he was scared. He was trying to get away, and so it happened accidentally, and they did try to fix it so that he could breathe, and I don't know. It's just a lot of terrifying things happened.
It was almost like he was restrained with the hair being away from his. He must have been moving or something, being restrained. That's the only thing I can think of that would make it on his ankles and his wrists. And the wounds on his wrists and that, they also healed very quickly. That was very unusual.
Stan's the only one that had anything happen. And where the implant had moved from his chest to his rib, it was like this raw area where it's like scoop marks had been taken out of the side of him, and the implant was gone. You couldn't feel the knot of it anymore. So that was our last abduction.
They took me against my will. My first experience was almost polite, though. It wasn't, and I've had other experiences that were absolutely terrifying.
Una mañana despertó con 5 marcas en su pierna, en la misma que ese día operarían para que Stan no quedara con una lesión permanente.
It happens to me everywhere. Our house really has all kinds of paranormal activity. You'll see flashes of light. Sometimes furniture will move on its own. The water turns on by itself. You can watch the handle go on. There'll be, like the shower sometimes goes on. All kinds of crazy stuff.
I've taken paranormal investigation groups to his home who have done it for many, many years, some of them up to 30 years. They bring their equipment, electromagnetic field readers, certainly a great number of video cameras, tape recorders, the Geiger counters and other equipment, dozens of pieces of equipment. And in every instance, the things we're able to capture, document, is phenomenal. We can have conversations with whatever they are, we're not sure. You can ask a question of them, you can't hear it, but you can play it back on your tape recorder and you can hear their voice. They will levitate or throw things around the room while you're there. While I'm there, on more than one occasion, the water faucet just turns on by itself and turns off by itself. This has happened in front of many people.
So they came and installed surveillance cameras throughout the house, and the stuff we captured are amazing. These balls, fist-sized balls of red light. You know, some of the debunkers and some of the skeptics will say, oh, it's a laser pointer, except for the fact that it's three-dimensional, and you can see that it's three-dimensional and it has a tail usually.
En el exterior de su casa también se presentan extraños fenómenos, incomprensibles para Stan y sus amigos.
One of the days we went outside, everything was fine. 5 minutes later, heard another noise, and all the lawn furniture was missing. We couldn't find it anywhere. And we looked and looked, and finally somebody looked on the roof, and we had all our lawn chairs on the roof.
Chairs on roofs, you know, that would, you know, the chairs that you'd walk outside, the chairs would all be out in the garden, or, you know, outside on the lawn. And the next thing you know, they're up on the roof.
También extrañas sombras al exterior y al interior de su casa, en las escaleras, en el sillón y frente a su gato. Incluso esta imagen del control remoto de Stan Romanek, que parece estar flotando en el aire, salvo por esta sombra que parece sostenerlo.
Like a week later, all lined up nice and neat on the kitchen countertop.
I was awakened by a whooshing sound. And I heard it, I sat up. Maybe it crossed my mind that it might be the dishwasher. I'd had an alarm system installed in the house, so I was confident that no one could get in. As I woke up, I became immediately aware of a presence. Before I could do or say a thing, I was gone, I was blacked out. After the blackout, something happened to my body. And he laughed and he said, Whitley, you're telling me you were taken aboard a flying saucer by little men. I thought, my God, I am telling him that. What in the hell could that mean? And he examined me and he said, to be honest with you, Whitley, it looks as if you've been raped. Under hypnosis, I saw one of these alien figures standing in my bedroom. It touched my head with a wand that had an electric fizzle to it. And it flashed terrifying visions. The first one I remember is a vision of my son. Something is happening to him. And I had the impression he was dying or being kidnapped or something at the time, and it was very frightening. The second vision was a vision of my father dying. He died previously of a heart attack. He was already dead. And the sense of sadness I felt was profound. I loved him deeply. There was a third vision involved, an apocalyptic vision, the end of the world, and of everything being destroyed, either in a nuclear war or a natural catastrophe of some kind that looked like a war. I remember the sense of despair and helplessness that it brought me. I wouldn't say that, oh, this is definitely aliens. I would say that it was real and that we don't know what it was. That I am quite certain of.
This is Edward Alexander Crowley, also known as Aleister Crowley. He styled himself the wickedest man in the world. He believed himself to be the great beast, and he changed his name to Aleister Crowley, so it would add up in both English, Hebrew, and Greek Kabbalah as 666.
He had so many Masonic degrees that you could fill up 5 pages of a book with them. This guy was probably the most highly honored Mason in the world.
In 1904, Crowley had a communication with an extraterrestrial being named Iwas. And this being, through his wife, kind of a channeling type operation, brought forth a book that was called the Book of the Law in 1904.
Spirit channelers and mediums from all walks of life claim contact with the spirit realm. The purpose of this contact, supposedly, is to teach mankind to achieve a higher state of consciousness through the knowledge they present. A classic example is J.Z. Knight, a highly successful spirit channeler who channels a spirit calling itself Ramtha. Ramtha's School of Enlightenment claims to reach some 60 cities in 26 countries around the world. In this interview, shot in 1998, Knight explains how she came in contact with her guiding spirit.
This was like an angel in my kitchen. You don't have time to react. You don't have time to rationalize this in your life. This is happening in your little kitchen. I just blurted out, "You're so beautiful. Who are you?" And he smiled. This beautiful smile lit up the whole room, and he said, "I am Ramtha the Enlightened One, and I've come to help you over the ditch." And I looked back up at him, and he said, "Beloved daughter," he said, "I have come to make you a light to the world."
Equipped with a bad British accent, something that seems common among channelers, Knight gives herself over to the spirit of Ramtha.
I am Ramtha the Enlightened One. I am 35,362 1 and 37 seconds years old. I was born in that which is termed a great and marvelous place called Lemuria, and my destiny here is to teach you that which you desire to know. and to let you know that every word that I say I will manifest for you in your life.
Incredibly, throughout the interview, Ramtha and Knight repeat the central themes of the New Age movement over and over, insisting that there is no death and that man himself is a god, his only task being to realize his self-empowerment.
So I must become the teacher. I must plant in your mind outrageous concepts.
Here, Knight denies that Ramtha is a demon, but believes he was a man who has achieved divine status due to knowledge and experience.
He's not a devil. He's not a demon. He's not a guru. He's a god.
I am a teacher and a god. I'm a god because I experienced all of these things. And I am a teacher, not of truth, but of philosophy.
I would love someone to stand up and say, God doesn't live outside of you. God is you.
While J.Z. Knight is among the more successful mediums, she is certainly not alone. A nearly identical doctrine is preached from a series of channelers who believe they are in communication with extraterrestrial spirits from other planets and galaxies.
Hello, Philip. How are you today?
Very good, Leah. How are you?
Very fine, thank you. So, what is it that you wanted to know?
Where are you from?
I'm from Venus.
I don't think anybody's going to believe that you or anybody else could be from Venus. Could you explain to us how you could be when everybody knows it's uninhabitable?
They think it's uninhabitable because it is not inhabitable by physical life forms. We have bodies of light.
While Leah rambles on with fantastical ideas, she soon compels the audience toward global unity, a message found throughout the New Age movement.
And what occurs here on this planet will affect the rest of the universe. Can you, with all of your different ideas, all of your different races, come together as one planet and one people? We have dedicated millennia upon millennia to this idea. The earlier experiments with Pan and Lemuria and Atlantis were not successful. But this one will be.
Now the interviewer asks the woman to exchange spirits and to channel another spirit that calls itself the Tibetan. Tibet is an often referred to hotspot for New Age empowerment. Hitler's Nazi occultists went to Tibet thinking to find their ancient Aryan ancestors. Listen carefully to the Tibetan's message as he refers to the great I Am, the name God reveals in the Bible to describe himself.
I am the Tibetan, and I have come during this time continuum to discuss with you the idea of the only question in the universe. And that question is, what is? And the answer is, I am. For all things that are created, that were created, that shall be created, fall under the question, what is? And you, each and every one of you, are that answer, and that answer is, I am. I am is also the name of the creator of this universe. That is all. I relinquish control to the entity, Leah.
As the entity Leah returns, she confirms the You Are God message and refers to the new race that will arise through the New Age movement. Most New Agers today do not realize that this new race is identical to the master race prophesied by Adolf Hitler, a race of so-called supermen who will be their own gods, having rejected the one true God of the Bible.
This new age is where there will be a race on this planet and throughout all galaxies and the name of that race will be peace. It's been wonderful spending some time with you. As you take this little piece of information with you, know that you are never alone. You are all connected to the creative source of this universe. And nothing can stop that flow except your denial that you are God. We thank you. Good day.
The experiments featured in this program have been described by the scientists who witnessed them as some of the best evidence for life after death ever. After 2 years of intense effort, the skull experiment began to produce more phenomena than in any mediumship experiment in the history of the paranormal.
Their initial claims were that they were in contact with a group of deceased entities who were producing, with their help, a number of pictures of either deceased persons or strips of films, which they claimed to be produced without any cameras and in the dark.
To eliminate any possibility of hoaxing, the scientists brought their own film and locked it in a specially designed security box.
The box was held in the hands of the investigators so that no one could get at it. And then immediately afterwards, we would take it out of the box ourselves so that no one else touched it, and then develop it ourselves in a special machine.
Despite all these precautions, the experiments continued to produce the incredible images seen here.
They were able to achieve whole lengths of film, sometimes up to as much as 4 feet, with various words, symbols, messages, all sorts of different things on that film.
Other films contained poems in centuries-old German and fragments of Greek, Chinese, Hebrew, Latin, and even Sanskrit. The Skull Group were ordinary people with no knowledge of these languages. But did these films have a purpose? If dead personalities were producing these images, why did they apparently design some of them as complex puzzles?
Providing something which is a puzzle, which is difficult to solve, is simply because it is difficult to solve. It isn't readily available. It can't be easily attributable to the person sitting around the table.
Despite lengthy investigations, the possible authors of some of the films, like this German poem, proved impossible to trace. But others were easier to track down. This one contains a poem by Frederick Myers. Intriguingly, Myers was one of the founders of the SPR and a passionate researcher into the evidence for life after death. Before he died in 1901, he promised his colleagues at the SPR that he would try to communicate with them from the other side. Could this film actually represent evidence of the afterlife sent by one of its greatest investigators? Mostly the researchers were unclear as to who might have created these films. However, there were clues as to who the ghostly authors might be in the form of initials or signatures. For example, in this film, the signature appears to belong to the dead singer and actor Ivor Novello. This was received on one of the Skull films. Compare it to Novello's actual signature. Investigators say these images were created in total darkness. But how?
I think that those pictures can be explained only by imagining that the spirits can project their recollections and images onto a film in some way we can't begin to understand. The only alternative explanation is they are all fakes, and I don't believe that there's evidence that that is the case.
Although the mechanism for their creation remains a mystery, investigators concluded they were unique.
As far as the photographic evidence is concerned at Skull, the strips of film, there has, in my view, never been anything like that at all, ever.
Spurred on by the photographic experiments, the Skull Group began a series of video experiments called Project Alice, after Alice through the looking glass. Their ambition was nothing less than to try and capture moving images sent from the spirit world. The Skull Group insists that instructions on how to position the camera and mirrors came from their spirit communicators. They were told to set up a video camera in the dark cellar, aim it at a pair of mirrors so that it could only film its own viewfinder. While it was recording, nothing unusual was seen. But when the tape was played back, these remarkable pictures appeared.
We had images
on the video, sometimes of what looked like a tunnel of light. Other times spirit faces were coming towards us. Sometimes what appeared to be a doorway moving.
Skeptics claim these images were created by video feedback, occurring when a camera records its own output. But scientists have ruled this out. Video feedback doesn't produce this kind of result. As to what these extraordinary pictures represent, we can only guess, since their meaning was never explained to the Skoll group. This video, also totally unexplained, appears to be a ghostly face with moving eyes. Later, a few video experiments were attempted in full light. Again, nothing unusual was seen during the recording. However, on playback, this unworldly figure appeared. But was it possible for the Skoll group to have faked these images? Not according to the investigator who monitored these experiments, Swiss lawyer and businessman Dr. Hans Scher.
There's absolutely no possibility that this film could have been prepared before, because I selected one of the video films which was in its original packaging, which I opened. I took the film out, I signed the film, and I put it personally in the video camera.
He inserted it into the camera. We never touched at any stage the camera or the film.
When we played the film, it showed at the beginning a number of bubbles of various colors.
But there was one particular bubble on there in which the face of a person appeared, and it was a man with spectacles.
Although Dr. Scher did not recognize this face, the Skoll group thought it might have belonged to someone who was trying to communicate with him from the afterlife. Attempting to capture spirit voices via technical devices like radios and tape recorders has a long tradition that goes back to the last century. Today, there are tens of thousands of people around the world who say they have captured the voices of the dead on simple tape recorders. This is known as the electronic voice phenomena, or EVP, and was recently popularized in the Hollywood blockbuster White Noise. Despite the Hollywood treatment, EVP has been the focus of serious scientific investigation. One of the leading researchers is Alexander McCrae, an electronics engineer who has worked on communication systems for the space shuttle. He has been investigating EVP for decades.
If somebody came up to me in the street and said, there's nothing paranormal about EVP, I would say, well, I've done at least 20 years and hundreds of experiments, and I know that it is a paranormal effect. Now, how many experiments have you done?
But skeptics insist that EVP is nothing more than the random pickup of broadcast signals like radio and TV. To test this theory, McCrae tried to obtain EVP inside a laboratory that was fully shielded against radio and sound waves. This meant it was impossible to pick up any stray broadcast signals.
So inside the laboratory you couldn't pick up anything, but yet the device still produced voices.
Although this audio sample is hard to understand, the very fact it was recorded defies all known laws of science. One experimenter of EVP is Vicky Talbot, who lost her son Braden in a boating accident in 2001.
Okay, I'm coming down into Wildcat Cove right now, which is the cove
that my son departed from and did not return.
Ever since then, she says she can record and recognize his voice using this digital recorder.
Well, that's Braden. What has really convinced me is the way he speaks, the stress, the intonation. Sometimes he sounds exactly as he did in life.
Happy New Year.
He will use certain phrases that we used to use. He will say certain things that will identify himself as the person that he was in life. I am convinced, personally, that I am communicating with my son.
Like visitors to Skoll and to Bachi's centre, EVP practitioners find comfort in the belief that they can still communicate with loved ones. But even this conviction can't make up for the unbearable burden of losing a child.
These just make me want to cry, just looking at him. He'll just never be this age again, or do that again. What matters is the love that you have for your family. That's what really matters, and not to screw it up, and to remember they can be gone in a flash. You know, these other people, I feel so sorry for them because they have no way of communicating with those that they have lost. And they go around thinking, if only, if only, if only. I don't have to think that. And that's a good thing.
Although EVP provides some comfort to the bereaved, practitioners say that the voices are often unclear, always one way, and frustratingly short.
One way that we also communicated with spirit, and which was a very effective way, was by use of an ordinary, very cheap tape recorder whose amplifiers were used by the spirit team to carry on a two-way conversation with us.
We inspected this machine and found it was completely normal. Earlier, its built-in microphone had been removed to eliminate the possibility of recording anything. When the machine, which contained a blank cassette, was activated, witnesses were astonished when they heard this voice asking them a question.
Yes.
Experimenting with audio and
Yes.
historic moment it is.
The Skoll group say that their spirit communicators suggested ways of improving their experiments. For example, they told Professor Ellison, one of the SPR scientists, how to build a device for boosting communications via the tape recorder. But this information arrived in a very strange way. These images appeared after an unexposed film locked in the security box was later processed by the scientists. The scientists speculated about who was providing this technical information. Then initials at the end of the film seemed to have solved this mystery.
I wrote to the Edison Memorial people in America, and they sent me a copy of one of his letters, which contained his initials, which looked almost identical to the signature on this film.
This matching set of initials convinced the researchers it was Thomas Edison providing this information. Not only was Edison the world's most famous inventor, he also had an enormous interest in the possibility of an afterlife. His intention to build a machine that could communicate with the dead made headlines around the world, but he died before being able to build it. Is it possible that through the Skoll group, he finally achieved this aim?
The band leader says, "How long have you fellas been involved with sorcery?" And he chopped us a little bit, and I said, "Exactly what do you mean?" "Well," he said, "you know, what you people are doing, talking to the supposed spirits of the dead." He says, this is silly."
And this man had been at the seance with you.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And he's telling you that it's silly what you've just done. Because they believe that the soul is immortal. Yeah. They may not be talking to the supposed spirits of the dead.
Oh, yeah. Contrary to popular belief, necromancy does not consist of conjuring the spirits of the dead. The reason being, that man is totally mortal and does not possess an immortal soul. So, who are they talking to? He says, the friendly demon spirits that have always found over the centuries great delight in impersonating in apparitions departed loved ones and persons of great renown.
Of the shape of a square, if you really want to find it. So look with care for the shape of a square. Look all around. Can you find it? Okay, now let's look around for a square. Is the door shaped like a square? No, it's shaped like a rectangle. It has two long sides and two short sides. If you really want to find it, so look with care for the shape of a square. Look all around. Can you find it? Okay, now let's look around for a square. Is the door shaped like a square? It's shaped like a rectangle.
Bueno, la primera vez que fuimos a Loveland, en Colorado, a casa de Stan Romanek, su esposa Lisa nos advirtió que ahí pasaban cosas muy raras. Sin embargo, pues yo soy un poco escéptico de estas cuestiones y pues no lo creí. Me comentó que a veces se abría el agua sola y que pasaban cosas extrañas, que una vez estaban con unos amigos, entraron a la casa y cuando salieron todos los muebles estaban pues prácticamente en el techo y cosas realmente inexplicables, ¿no? Me tocó ver a Guillermo muy espantado porque se le había prendido el automóvil solo.
Estábamos en la casa de San Román, que eran como las 11 de la noche. Habíamos trabajado todo el día con él. Yo salía un momento de relajamiento a fumar un cigarro. La calle estaba totalmente sola, oscura, y estaba la camioneta que habíamos rentado para viajar de Denver a Loveland, que está como a 150 millas. Saqué los cigarros del coche, cerré el coche. Ya cuando me dirigí a la casa de Romanek, al ir a entrar en la puerta, escuché claramente que el coche se encendía, que el motor arrancaba. Entonces regresé a la camioneta y efectivamente el coche estaba andando. ¿Te imaginas la impresión para alguien que se baja del coche y se arranca el coche? Y luego una de las ventanas se bajó, las ventanas eléctricas. Hasta la fecha me sigo acordando de eso y se me enchina el cuero.
My stepson got a birthday card. Ended up being a haunted birthday card. You open it up, it plays music. And we kept finding this in the middle of nowhere, and it'd start playing music. So I put it on the table, put a piece of tape down, so if it moved, I could see that it moved, and watch it. Hear the clicking. We see that this happened, and everybody's just so excited. He sets up the camera again. He goes, well, just listen to him. It's funny.
Again, have a ball. Get playful. Be silly. Move a few things around over there by the computer. That was just great. Just enjoy your presence.
It's funny because they don't move the chair. You'll see this, and I pause it. You see this little orb, and I pause it. Could be dust, I'm not sure. Nobody's in the room, everybody's out. We made sure that we went in there in pairs to make sure nobody was doing anything. They didn't move the chair. They moved his camera. His camera was tightened down. Somebody had to put some force into that.
Meet professional demonologists Ed and Lorraine Warren.
A poltergeist can be terrifying. So anybody says that a poltergeist is mischievous, they better take a second look.
During their 50 years of hunting ghosts, Ed and Lorraine claim to have encountered hundreds of poltergeists. They've also been the subject of numerous books and have consulted on several high-profile cases, including the Amityville Horror.
Poltergeist is nothing more than a devil or a demon as far as we're concerned. People say, this guy's going back into the medieval ages. There are no such things as devils or demons. Yes, there are.
Next, Ed decides to confront the poltergeist alone.
Give me some sign. Is that you moving something? Give me some sign that you're here. What I did was use religious provocation. I have to provoke it into some type of outward manifestation. And that was my point in doing that. In the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to reveal your identity.
July 14th, 2005, more unexplained things start happening. Our house became haunted like you can't believe. One of the people involved in my case got some ghost hunters to come to our house. How many people here don't know what an EVP is? Raise your hand. Okay, for those of you that don't know what an EVP is, it stands for electronic voice phenomena. If you're a ghost hunter, you will have a digital recorder with you. They will ask questions to midair, and sometimes they get answers that they can't hear on these little recorders. We picked up this weird sound coming off this tape recorder, an EVP. My wife screamed and goes, "Oh my God, we have demons!"
Director's log. In order to contact the alleged spirit connected to the voodoo doll, we're placing one team at the woodpile while a second team covers the house.
I'm speaking to whatever force is in this house. We want to communicate with you. We want you to give us a sign of your presence.
All right, if there's anything down here, I'm here.
Why are you bothering this family?
Were you ever human?
Hey, sir, just Ryan and Chip, are they walking around or are they sitting down?
Copy that, Chad. They are sitting down.
The f is that?
Okay, I'm hearing something.
Chad, is that you making that sound?
Negative.
Do something not harmful to anyone in this house or outside, and let us know that you are present.
Now that was interesting. Heard a growling sound. Can you do that again?
Serge, mark what time it is. There was just a real low, grumbling, growling sound down here. Yeah, there's something going on down here, bro. Straight up.
Hey, Ryan?
Yeah?
I just heard a couple of growling sounds coming from the basement. Chad reported the same thing as well.
Serge, tell Chad we're going to join him in the basement.
Copy that.
People seem to be accosted by a UFO in a fairly isolated setting. They are somehow tranquilized, they're unable to move, they're rendered submissive, and they're taken aboard a ship, often through a levitation beam. The people on board the ship usually are described as looking like the alien that I just showed you. They're very short, 3 to 4 feet tall, big heads, huge eyes, no genitals, vestigial mouth and nose and ears, in other words, not very much of those in evidence, and they stink. They smell like sulfur. Interesting smell.
Phenomenon as they took place became more and more ominous, and really a lot of it was centered in these 2 bedrooms. There was a time for probably about 7 months where we vacated these rooms completely. No one slept in them, because the entity really gravitated to these 2 rooms. And the entity, which would park itself here at night, had a very, very strong localized stench, as I can call it. It was a combination of a burning rubber and a sulfur smell.
I actually experienced that here too, and it was the first time I've ever experienced it. It's very eerie. It's like a packet of horrible odor that moves.
You know, the debunkers will say, oh, that's a laser light. Okay, really? Okay, I want you to look at this. Look where the doorway is. And you can see that the object is actually a three-dimensional object. It stops, changes colors, and in the original video, you can see the light reflecting off the TV as its object passes by the TV. And it goes down to where we're sleeping, which is really creepy.
And I have no clue what I just saw. None whatsoever. Holy... I was just talking to Nancy. Where'd it go? There it is. I got it.
Might have to turn this up a little
That's the same freaking orb. I gotta go over here and see if I can get it better. That is the craziest thing. There it is. I'm gonna zoom in.
Lee and his family became concerned when they began to see strange apparitions.
We've had so many things happen here that's so unexplainable that what would shock you is pretty much normal, everyday things to us, you know.
Look closely at the tape. Rather than burglars, Lee caught something much more puzzling, bizarre lights appearing in front of his home. Here, two of them merge into one, then disappear. These strange lights are called orbs, says university professor and ghost hunter Renee Horath.
They're balls of energy that actually reflect light and that move around, and we associate this with spirit phenomena. It is interesting also that the orbs come in different shapes. That is, I would say, the most common type of apparition that we get.
Cats were hissing at something up on the stairs. All I saw was a shimmer of light. Took a picture of it. It seemed to absorb the light. It happened again. Get my camera, I see the shimmer, take a picture. Look, there's a shadow thing holding my remote. That's my remote, just right above the... It happens again. This time the cat's playing with it. There's the cat right there. And look, the shadow's casting a shadow.
They were experiencing strange occurrences in their house. In particular, this one guest bedroom upstairs. Doors closing and pictures being thrown off the wall, and crying and voices coming from this particular room upstairs.
Despite the family's refusal to ever enter the room again, Hobbit braced himself and went in alone with his video camera. Once inside, Hobbit said he felt that some force was directing him to an antique picture on the wall. The picture was a present from the husband's dead mother.
I was not alone. A black, transparent, shadowy mass of some sorts, of someone or something standing by the bed. I remember the look on the husband's face. He stands up and he's pointing at the television, shaking his head, going, "My God," he says, "that's exactly what I saw."
Hobbit even caught the apparition reflected in a mirror. This shot persuades many top researchers that we are witnessing a real ghost on tape.
what you're going to see is the most powerful evidence to who these entities really are. A lot of people come to these talks wanting to hear certain things. I'm not here to scratch your itching ears. I'm here to share with you evidence of real research that may go against things you've been hearing in this field. Right now, I want to share with you a short video. I've always felt that this was a very powerful video. It's an example of what people go through with the abduction experience. You've probably, if you guys have been studying this field at all for any amount of years, you've probably seen this video. It airs on TV just about every year. But this is about a particular family that has gone through this abduction experience, and it talks about what it's done to this family and how it's affected them. And you'll keep in mind that casualties word that I used as you watch this.
Ordinary, everyday people that this has happened to. And it can happen to anybody. I didn't want to believe that it happened to me, but it did.
Joyce Ahrens and her family believe that what happened to them was not an isolated incident. One highly controversial study conducted by the Roper Poll suggests that hundreds of thousands, even millions of Americans, have memories that indicate that they may have been kidnapped by aliens. Abduction researchers believe these abductions happen generation after generation, as this family from West Plains, Missouri can attest. Their story starts one evening in the fall of 1976, in the presumed safety of their home. Dan and Joyce Ahrens say the room was dark except for the unusual light, which they describe as about 4 or 5 feet in diameter. They say it hovered over the baby's crib at the foot of their bed where their 1-year-old daughter Heather slept. Dan says that when he tried to get up, he found himself immobilized.
That was the most frightening feeling I guess I've ever had my whole life, is not being able to move.
I was screaming for him to help me because I couldn't move. And I didn't know that he was paralyzed too. And we both sat up in the bed at the same time. And I said, what the hell was that?
The incident was over in what seemed like an instant. The baby was standing up in her crib looking dazed but unharmed. Dan and Joyce thought they had just shared a scary dream. That is until 1992, 16 years later. Dan, a computer technician, was working at his keyboard when suddenly he was seized by panic.
I immediately thought I was having a heart attack because I started sweating real bad. My ears were ringing. It was a real tight feeling in my head.
Dan was rushed to the emergency room where doctors ran tests and ordered x-rays. When the results were in, they concluded that Dan had suffered an anxiety attack and sent him home, but the symptoms persisted.
To see him like that was devastating. He couldn't leave the house. He was so scared.
After 6 weeks of constant fear, Dan sat down in front of the TV trying to relax. He turned on a movie that happened to be about alien abductions. Dan experienced a sudden revelation.
There was one part in that movie that this little creature or whatever was kind of peeking out from around the door, and it was in the dark and the shadows, you know, and everything. And I immediately my heart started racing, and I just kind of completely went out of it again.
Dan wondered, was his anxiety somehow related to the subject of the movie? He later chanced upon another television show about alien abductions and watched an interview with therapist John Carpenter, the National Director of Abduction Research for the Mutual UFO Network. Dan immediately contacted Carpenter for help.
He suffered from a panic disorder at that point in time, and he had flashbacks and nightmarish images of these beings, but didn't understand what was going on and needed some relief.
Dan agreed to an on-camera hypnosis session with Carpenter, during which he revisited that memorable night in 1976, the night he saw the red light over the baby's crib. This time, under hypnosis, he remembers more. He recalls cowering in the corner of his bed as he watched alien beings take his daughter Heather from her crib. Under separate hypnosis, Dan's wife, Joyce, recalled the same sequence of events. They both say little beings marched them outside, and together the family was floated onto a spaceship.
I never wanted it to happen to my children. I didn't realize until later that it had. But when they took her, I couldn't do anything.
Heather, now 22 and married, remembers a series of abductions beginning in childhood, when she was forced to play telepathic games with the alien. The Aarons family believes alien kidnappers have not only intruded in the lives of their children, but are now visiting one of their grandchildren.
He calls them his little buddies that come in his room and play. He said he wanted to watch the ship leave. I'm not going to tell him that it's not real, because it is real.
Skeptics would say that Dan, Joyce, and Heather could have constructed their stories together before hypnosis.
But then they'd have to know how to answer the trick questions and the leading suggestions, which I provide. Plus, there are many details they wouldn't know about that we would be looking for as markers for truthfulness and reliability with other abduction data.
With the help of hypnosis, Dan's anxieties subsided and he returned to work. But what once seemed out of this world has now become a part of his life.
If this is some sort of mental thing that's happening to people, then why aren't they out, why aren't the scientists or the doctors or whatever trying to find a cure?
Not something you want to enjoy or want to experience. 10 years that thing has been playing on the A&E channel. On the Sightings channel, they played it for years. This family has gone through hell with this experience. Imagine having to live with that. This is how these people become casualties of this war. It destroys their lives. There are people who report experiences that seem to give them a higher spiritual revelation. But as you heard from Guy in his talk, that needs to be questioned. I want to show you some other examples of casualties of this cosmic war. I've worked with about 400 abduction experiencers over the past 13 years. What you're going to see here are some of the testimonies I get from these people, from what they've been through. I had nightmares of being put on a table and being tortured. I had nightmares of demons telling me that I was crazy, and if I ever told anyone about them, I would be locked up, and they would never let me wake up again. I would wake up with bruises, sometimes bleeding and gasping for breath. I would wake up to people standing around my bed, speaking to me in another language that I knew, or my bed shaking violently even though there was no earthquake. Some of these things get brought up this morning in Mike Tatar's talk. And the thing that bothered me most was my clock on the nightstand turning into a slithering snake with the time in its eyes, and so many more bizarre things. I thought I was losing my mind. I guess the worst thing was the feeling of aloneness, a feeling I couldn't relate to or trust anyone. I felt like an outsider to all of humanity, like I was an alien among a world of people and was the only one of my kind. Anytime I tried to trust someone, tell someone what was happening, they would intervene and hurt me or stall me. They would deceive me so I couldn't tell. Being a childhood experiencer, this started when I was 4 and just kept happening over and over again. They would do things to wreck my trust with other people, parents, family, friends, whatever it took. They had me completely believing that I couldn't trust anyone, that if I tried to, it was certain it wouldn't work and I would be hurt instead, and I really believed that, and that I was totally alone. I gave up. I was lying in bed, kept awake by the barking dogs when paralysis set in. I was unable to cry out. I could see nothing but a whitish gray like a mist or fog, although I sensed someone or something was in my room. My wife didn't awaken. The next thing I knew, I was being levitated above my bed, I had the sensation I was being suspended by what felt like a pole inserted into my rectum. By this time, I was alive with terror, but I couldn't scream. Increasingly, I felt as if I were entering a struggle that might even be more than life and death. It might be a struggle for my soul, my essence, or whatever part of me might have reference to the eternal. There are worse things than death, I suspected. So far, the word demon had never been spoken amongst the scientists and doctors who were working with me. Alone at night, I worried about the legendary cunning of demons. At the very least, I was going stark raving mad. This is Whitley Strieber. This is a man who, if you've read his books, he talks about these horrific experiences. But yet, through all he's been through, this man promotes contact with these entities, promoting communion with these entities. Does this sound like something you guys are interested in, would like to experience? Hence, the title of my talk, Unholy Communion. These people are casualties of this cosmic war. I say cosmic war because we've laid the foundation through the talks today to show you this is not a physical war. These are entities that are other dimensional with different purposes than we can imagine. Hence, the cosmic war. We were still doing UFO sighting investigations. Well, how many can you do before you finally get to the point where you realize you're chasing your tail? I said MUFON's got thousands upon thousands of investigations under their belt since 1969, and they still don't have an answer. Well, something I was starting to see in my monthly meetings were people coming in claiming these odd experiences, saying that they had been in contact or had been through this abduction experience, saying that they had met these entities, whether they liked it or not. Well, we started looking at this and got to thinking, you know, we're chasing lights in the sky. These people come into our meeting and sitting right here at the table said that they've been in contact with the things that are driving the things we're chasing. Excuse me, shouldn't we be talking to them? They're front line, not chasing past history events where you show up hours later or days later to try and do an investigation. You can talk to the people that have been there. But one thing that scared us in the beginning was we realized these people, they weren't happy people. They were like the people I just read about. They were having tough times. They were troubled. They thought because we were UFO investigators, we had all the answers. We didn't have any answers. Myself and my investigators, we started focusing on studying every aspect of the UFO abduction experience that we could get our hands on. All the major players that have written or talked about the experience and the research. We consumed it before we started into this. So now we've gone from UFO investigations to abduction research. But there's another aspect that we started to recognize. There seemed to be a spiritual aspect to this phenomenon. A lot of the people coming into these meetings had some strange ideas that I'd never heard of before. Well, as I started listening to these people and started seeing some kind of spiritual connection, I started to recognize I got this hole that feels like something's missing. And as I started listening to these people, and in the studies that they were involved in with the New Age and metaphysical studies, I started to see that it and the UFO phenomenon were intertwined. And I needed to find out what that intertwining was. What was that connection? How is this spiritual connection tied in to this UFO phenomenon? So I went and started researching this New Age and metaphysical studies. Over the next 4 years, I was a practitioner of metaphysics. 1996, I'm working with 2 specific cases that were very, very troubling. It was absolutely wearing myself and my fellow investigators down. The oppression coming from these two cases was just incredible. We had never experienced anything like this. It happened to be that one of my female investigators at the time happened to be my girlfriend. She was a professing Christian, but working with us in the research. She started seeing this oppression and seeing how it was affecting us as researchers. And she was seeing something that we weren't seeing. And she pulls me aside one night and she says, you know, I'm watching what this is doing to you guys, and I think there's something here that you're not recognizing and you have no idea how to control or work with. And I think you need some protection you're talking about. And I pulled out my gemstones and I showed them to her. I said, this one do this, this one do this, this one do this. I said, I'm covered. She says, no, you're not. She says, I can tell you're not. She says, how about some real protection? And she says, okay, what do you got? I'm open to anything, you know. Well, she breaks out a Bible and hands it to me, and she says, it's in here. And I said, no, 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 no. I says, that book's got nothing to do with the work that I do. She says, I think it does. And I said, no, it doesn't. And I pushed it away. And she says, well, let me ask you, as somebody who you've told you are the most open-minded, objective researcher there is, to take a look at this. She shared with me these key phrases in this book, these key scriptures, and for the first time, even though I probably heard it 1,000 times, something out of that book struck home to truth. It showed me that there was a true protection to dealing in experiences like this. And I said, I want that protection. It sounds better than what I got here. And she showed me how to get that protection. November of 1996, I became a believer in Jesus Christ. It's like the blinders came off my eyes, the earplugs came out of my ears, and I saw truth. An inquisitive person, I got to know, oh, what the heck is a Christian? Show me what a Christian is. I'm agreeing to what you're showing me, but now, if I'm called a Christian, what's a Christian? Well, it happened to be that another one of my my investigators was also a Christian, helping me chase UFOs and abductions. And he says, got this buddy with this powerful Bible study course. It's very powerful, very fast. 2 weeks we can have it done. It's very intense. You learn more than you can learn in 50 years. That's what I want. Every night we're at this guy's house watching another video, another video, another video, another video on this Bible study course. Got to this one video, and the guy doing the teaching brought this term up called spiritual warfare. I went, now that sounds cool. What's spiritual warfare? Well, he got in there, and he started talking about it, and he says this one verse. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against spiritual wickedness in the heavenly realm. I'm sitting on the guy's couch watching this being said on a video. In an instant, I've got an alien gray staring me in the face, and I'm going, oh my. And then in an instant, it morphs into the most horrific thing I had ever seen in my life. And I said, stop that video. And they're like, what? And I said, I got to tell you guys what I just saw. And they're like, that's incredible. What does that mean? And I said, I think I've just been shown who these entities are. Can't prove it. And I said, you know what? We don't belong in this field. We don't need to be part of this research. I'm done. Scared the hell out of me. I said, I'm done with this. They agreed. Okay, we're in agreement with you. It's not what it seems. Can't prove it, but it's not what it seems. A couple of weeks went by, and I get this small, still voice and says, you got work to do. No, I'm done with this field. And I said, no, you got work to do. I said, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. It's bad stuff. Then I hear, I want you to take the truth back to where you came from. Like I said, I'm a new Christian. I said, God, if this is you telling me this, I says, this ain't going to work. I says, I can't take the Bible back to people in the New Age and the metaphysical realm. They don't believe the Bible to be the inerrant word of the Creator God. They believe it to be good stuff written by a bunch of old men, and who knows what they were doing back then. I said, he said, no, you need to take this truth back. I said, no, you got to give me something better, because this ain't going to work. Here's that small, still voice again. You already got what it takes to share the truth. I said, you got to show me, because I'm not getting it. Go back and look at your cases. I pulled my partner aside, Wes at the time, that helped me form CE4. I said, Wes, we need to go back and look at these cases. We're missing something. We went back and pulled this case out. Remember the one I told you about? The great guy was seeing the gray fog and fell asleep. The dogs were barking and felt like he was held up, by a pole, shoved up his rectum in sheer panic. It was his case. We had sat for 2 hours, recorded a 2-hour videotape, sitting in his living room, camera set up. We're sitting on the couch, interviewing him, having him telling us 2 hours worth of his stories. We didn't hear a word he said. Didn't hear a word he said. Didn't catch anything he was saying. Yet here we are, investigators, trained at this. We plugged that videotape in and watched what he was saying, and it was like, do you remember this? Wes says, I don't remember it. But yet we were sitting right there recording it 6 months prior to this time we just plugged it in to watch it again. So that means it was prior to me becoming a Christian. You know what he says on this videotape? That particular instance that he was talking about right there that I shared with you, he called out, this guy happened to be a new Christian himself. During the experience, while he's held up in the air with his pole shoved and he's in sheer panic, he cries out, Jesus, Jesus, help me. And he is immediately dropped back into bed and wakes up from the experience. We never heard a word he said, but yet we were there recording it. When I saw that on that video, I thought, oh my, if this is real, this I can take back. Because every researcher that we had talked to and all the research we had read said it was impossible to stop an alien abduction experience. It had never been done. Did I have something real here? I needed to know. I'm too new a Christian to even trust God. So I get on the phone and I start calling the top abduction researchers around the country. They're nice guys, just like me. Some of you have talked to them personally. They're nice people. I said, guys, I got an interesting case here. I don't know what to make of it. They said, well, share it with us. I did. Told them the story. I said, have you ever come across anything like this? Can we go off the record? They all said this. I said, sure, we can go off the record. That means I can tell you what they said, but I can't tell you who said it. Every one of them said, we've had cases like that. And I said, well, why haven't you shared this information? You say that it can't even be stopped, but yet now you're saying they can be stopped, and you come across people that have stopped it like this. Why haven't you shared this information? We're relying on you for the truth. They said, well, we really didn't know what to make of that. And I said, really? I said, I would have been fine with that answer, but it was usually followed by another answer. We really didn't want to go there because it might affect our credibility in the realm. You know, all through this realm, you hear cover up, cover up, cover up, cover up, cover up. Government this, government that. Government's covering up. How many times you guys have heard this, right? I just gave you a cover-up. And that cover-up is not by the government. It's by the leading researchers that you have been relying on for the truth all these years. So I knew that I had to go and get this evidence myself. Because I knew it was there. They just told me. In 13 years, since becoming a believer, I have worked with over 400 cases. If you go to my website at ce4research.com, we've got, I think, 94 up there now that they publicly allowed me to post. They're in written form, and they're also in recorded audio form. You can hear the people themselves that can testify that they too using the name and authority of Jesus Christ, has stopped this experience, not only while it was happening, but they've terminated it from happening in their life. This is a piece of the puzzle, of the UFO puzzle. This whole UFO phenomenon is just a big puzzle. There's researchers out there with each of their own piece. They all need to take those pieces and put them on the table to see what the picture is going to look like. Throughout the years, my particular piece of this puzzle is unwanted. I actually did the talk at the 60th anniversary here for Roswell for the city. The unwanted piece of the UFO puzzle. This is evidence that these entities are not who they say they are because of the way they respond to that name. Why would aliens respond like that? They don't. Guy showed us that they preach a new message. They're evangelizing a new gospel that we are warned about to not follow. There are so many different religions in this world, but they only come here to preach against one. Why is that? When all of the other ones don't even agree with each other except in one thing. You know what that one thing is that all the other religions agree with on? They're anti-Christ. They're only here to preach against one religion, and that's one that professes Christ. And here this same Christ, this same name, puts these entities in their place. We hear about high technology this, high technology that from these entities. Excuse me, but if you really go back and look at the abilities that angels have in Scripture, you'll see that this so-called appearance of high technology is only their ability. This experience has been around in many guises. This is the emperor's new clothes, one that you would accept. What's the purpose behind it? Guy talked about that. The purpose is to take our faith and our eyes away from the one true God. There is a war going on, a cosmic war. Your souls are the prize. In this research, secular researchers are still asking the question, why does this happen to some people? Guess what? I got three answers. It's either one of the three or a combination of the three that gets you this experience. First one, you asked for it. Some people actually ask to have the experience and know what it is like or about. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, be very careful what you ask for. The second one, some people unknowingly open a door to the experience by being involved in the New Age occult activities. When you engage in the unknown things outside of God, this is what the evidence shows, the Creator and His Word, you make yourself vulnerable to these entities. We have found this reason to be the most often found root cause. The last one puzzled us for a while. You are part of a generational cycle or generational curse. Okay? What brings that one up? We had people that we know actually stated they asked for the experience, they got it. We had people that were dabbling in who knows what, they had it. Okay, we were able to track back where that open door came from. The one that puzzled us the most was when adults were telling us that they'd had the experience since they were children. These children are too innocent to do either one of the first two. So where did experience come from? Why was it allowed? What made it happen? We started asking them as researchers, investigators, tell me about your parents. What were they doing? Were they believers in Christ? Were they followers of any other religion? Were they dabbling in this? Were they involved in, what were they involved in? Open doors all the way through it, the family life. You know what? This is all shock and awe. I just shared all the shock with you. How about some awe? There is a hope for people that are casualties of this cosmic war. In the cases that we worked with, in the testimonies of the cases that I've worked with over the years, over 400, the evidence shows that your life can be taken back through the name and authority of Jesus Christ. But yet they don't want this information to be shared. You ask them why. Can I prove this? What I'm getting ready to show you told you this was coming. That's why you're here. The most powerful evidence in the world today to the true nature of the alien entities. And what would that evidence be? The people themselves that have been able to stop the experience. I can tell you I got 400 cases. I can tell you I got 100 of them, right at 100 of them online. You can read them. You can listen to their audio. You're going, that's, may as well give me a fuzzy picture of a UFO. How do I know they're real? I can say, trust me, what I've told you is real. I'm not going to do that. You know what I'm going to tell you? Don't trust me. Don't trust Joe Jordan. Trust the evidence. I'm going to bring you the evidence. Evidence you can touch, evidence you can question, evidence that will tell you how their lives have been changed because they've been able to stop the experience through the name and authority of Jesus Christ. First of all, Guy Malone. You heard him talk earlier today. In his talk, he is one of those testimonies. Okay, there's physical evidence. Go talk to him. Go touch him. Ask him how his life has changed. Nicole, that's Guy's wife. She's been through this. She's set free from it. Living testimony that you can see. Patrice, right there. Raise your hand. Patrice has been through this experience. Patrice knows that the name and authority of Jesus Christ can put these entities in their place. Guys, can you take a second and come up so they can see you? Come on up. Marie, she's coming up over here on the right. This is another one. Can testify to the name and authority of Jesus Christ over these entities. Can put them in their place. This is evidence. I'm not bringing you fuzzy pictures. I'm bringing you people that you can talk to. People that you can test for yourself whether this is real for them. They can give you hope for this experience, to show you there is an absolute hope. It's the most powerful, irrefutable evidence in the world to who these entities are, because they've got their lives back after being casualties of a cosmic war. Let me give you one even better. Remember the video I showed in the beginning of that family? Joyce Aaron says, you know, I wish there was a cure. You know what? Joyce found that cure. Joyce Aarons, come on up. This experience destroyed her family. She left her family, went looking for the truth. She left Missouri, ended up in Florida, but she found me because I was MUFON, figured I had answers. She needed to share. And I said, you know what? We need to get together. We did. I shared with her what I had come across after I let her share her story. We were in a restaurant. I invited her to Neutral Ground. I went in there, shared with what I had. I could see she was getting agitated, touching things that she didn't want to hear. And she says, I got to go. I thought, okay, that's the last I'll see of Joyce. Joyce calls me a couple days later. She says, I want that. I had the opportunity inviting Joyce over to my home. She gave her life to Christ in my living room. I had the opportunity of working with Joyce for about 4 years, had her in my church, teaching her up what it is to be a believer. She put these entities and experiences in their place. She went home to Missouri, back to her family. Didn't get preachy with them, just showed them that she wasn't who she was before. She had her life back. They didn't. They were still miserable, still believing all the lies of the entity. She calls me in February. Says, you're not going to believe this. Her husband, when she got back in November, had already been diagnosed with cancer, lung cancer, and it was acting on him fast. He came to the truth, gave his life to Christ, actually had an encounter after he did. These entities didn't want him going to the grave with the truth. They tried to deceive him. He was having an experience, and Joyce was there. And she was able to testify right here that Dan was able to rebuke these entities and put them in their place. Dan passed away just recently, but he's able to leave his testimony. His family's becoming healed. That video that's been playing 10 years, they don't have the rest of the story. This is the first time that you're able to see this publicly. That's not all. You saw her son and daughter in that video, didn't you? Her daughter's still walking the fence. We're still waiting for her. But her son, Danny, he's here today too. Come on up. Ladies and gentlemen, this is living evidence of lives changed, destroyed by these creatures, brought back to normal lives, brought back to hope through the name and authority of Jesus Christ. The research shows, the documented evidence I have, that this works. No other name works, not for a permanent effect. This name works. For some reason, they don't want this information out there. You ask them why not. These people wanted it. These people got it. These people can testify it's real. That's what this is about. Living evidence. The most powerful evidence showing casualties of a cosmic war, but they can be healed. This experience is not what it seems to be. This is also from David Allen Lewis. Guy quoted him earlier. In dealing with the mystery of UFOs, we are not on the lunatic fringe of theology. Instead, we stand on your behalf in the front line of battle. We are in defensive warfare at a major point of assault on humanity. That is what this war is about. It's a war for your souls. Don't be a casualty of this cosmic war. You've seen what opens the doors to becoming one. You've seen how we close the door to no longer be one. Casualties of a cosmic war. This war has been going on since the beginning of time. These entities, the Nakesh, if you look up the word and what it means in Scripture, the Hebrew word Nakesh for the entity in the garden, the shining ones, this is right, they're teaching the same lie right out of the garden. It hasn't changed. Only the costume has changed. The facade that they wear has changed to fit the time. But it's the same lie from the garden. We're still seeing it. Ladies and gentlemen, the most powerful evidence in the world today of who these entities are. They're right here. Please talk to them. Test the evidence. In closing, and I close this every time I do this talk. This is Hebrew, by the way. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Blessed are you, Lord God, King and ruler of the universe. The line in the sand has been drawn. You need to choose which side you're on. You're going to be a casualty, or are you going to come through this on the winning side? The choice is yours. You now have all of the pieces of the puzzle to put the picture together. I ask you, what does the picture show you? Thank you.
And there arose war in heaven, Michael and his angels going forth to war with the dragon. And the dragon warred in his angels, and they prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast down, the old serpent, the one called the devil, and the Satan, he that deceiveth the whole inhabited world. He was cast down to the earth, and his angels with him were cast down.